The Dainty Damselfly is an uncommon, mainly southern European species of blue damselfly. It has spread northwards through France in recent years, and a small colony was found in South Essex in 1946. Sadly, coastal flooding destroyed its habitat in 1953, when it was declared extinct in the UK. Following an unsuccessful reintroduction in 1966, a few individuals were seen on the Isle of Sheppey, Kent. Since then, a few small colonies have been found. When I made my British Damselfly DVD, I had no film of the dainty damsel, and only limited clips to include in the British Dragonfly DVD. Since then, I have visited a new colony in Sandwich Bay, Kent, where efforts are being made to strengthen and increase the population. This has left me in a better position to create a short film on the species. In size and appearance, the male probably most closely resembles the southern damselfly, but the dainty is unlikely to be seen with it here, so it is not shown. At the moment, it is most likely to be seen with the common blue, the azure or variable damselflies. Compared with those species here, you can see that the male is slightly smaller, although the abdomens of the longer azure and variable are slimmer. There is more black on top of the abdomen. In particular, all of segments 6 and 7, unlike the others. Segments 8 and 9 are all blue, similar to the common blue. The azure and variable both have a small amount of black on segment 9. The wing spot or pterostigma is slightly longer than that on the other three, but can be hard to see. It is the only one which is brown in colour, however. Perhaps easier to perceive is the wing length down the abdomen, which usually reaches just as far as the 7th segment. His legs are paler than the others. The shoulder stripes are strong, with a fairly consistent width, but not as wide as the common blues. There is a prominent blue line between the eye spots, usually lacking on the others, except the variable, sometimes the common. The pronotum is tri-lobed, but not as indented as the variable, but this is difficult to see. The rear edge of the pronotum is often well defined by a thin blue line on the common and the azure. The black wine glass shaped marking on segment 2 resembles the mark on the variable damsel. Like that species, the mark is variable and can lack the wine glass stem, as seen on this individual, looking like the U-shaped mark identifying the azure. Similar again to the azure and variable, it has the black coenagrian spur on the side of the thorax, which might end in an isolated spot, missing on the common blue. There is only one female form, although closer in appearance to the dark forms of the other 3 damsels. She still has some blue showing on the abdomen. Looking at a pair in tandem, you can see she is stouter than the male in the usual way. And when seen alongside the other 3 females, because she is a little shorter, she seems a little chunkier. There are 2 prominent light-coloured bands at the top of the abdomen, between segments 3 and 4, and 4 and 5, with narrower bands between the others. The wider bands are created by the rocket-shaped marks on segments 4 and 5. These bands are more consistent in size than the pale marks on the coloured female forms of azure and variable. The common has a distinctive mark on segment 8, lacking on the others. Like the male, the shoulder stripes are strong, but not as wide as the common blue. There is also a fairly prominent pale line between the eye spots. The side of the thorax has the coenagrian spur. Like the male, the wing spots are brown, but the wings are longer in respect to the abdomen and might reach down to the 8th segment. The underparts of a young female are lemon yellow, as are the shoulder stripes and the narrow bands on top of the abdomen. This is not necessarily a sign of sexual immaturity. Most of the yellow turns blue with maturity, but the underside of the eyes and thorax remain yellow. Note the small brown mite under. The first time I visited the site in Sandwich Bay was in early August, right at the end of their flight season. I was lucky to find 3 mating pairs, late morning. Searching around the pond earlier revealed nothing. They suddenly seemed to appear in cop. The flight season can start in May, generally early June, ending early August. Late June or early July sees them at their peak and would be a good time to visit. My second visit was towards the end of June. Again, nothing was seen until pairs turned up late morning. And it was difficult to find individuals of both sexes, not in tandem or in cop. Note the brown pterostigma, as previously mentioned. However, it could be worth looking on floating vegetation for males, waiting for females to approach. Mating occurs near the water in the usual way. Taking 3/4 of an hour or so. This male has no stem to the wine glass marking on segment 2. Male sperm transfers are commonly seen before and during mating. I was lucky to film this in close-up during both visits. This clip is at half speed to make the action clearer. Mating over, eggs are laid into floating vegetation, such as water milfoil or hornwort. On my first visit, this was in the company of small red-eyed damselflies. The males remain in tandem, energetically whirring their wings, very rarely settling on vegetation. On my second visit, they were ovipositing in large numbers. Many of the females were quite yellow in appearance. And they almost had the pond to themselves. 3 marsh frogs shared the water. My attention was initially drawn to them by their call. They were constantly trying to creep up on the damselflies as they oviposited. All to no avail as far as I could see. Once egg laying was over, the pairs separated quickly and dispersed into the surrounding grassland. This seemed to be the best time to search for individuals. On the continent, dainty damsels are found in a variety of well-vegetated water bodies, tolerating slow-flowing and even slightly saline conditions. Here, breeding has occurred in well-vegetated ponds and ditches in coastal grazing marshes.